This is Ben Falcon's Media Corner, and welcome back to another movie review, AK After I Saw. Before I get into it, again, if you didn't see my opening before my intro, I just want to apologize that if you hear any background noises, it's just that my dad's just currently sorting out my house. It's currently getting renovated. Again, if I apologize for any noises, but I just wanted to get this review done, and so I can do more focus on other stuff as well. Again, welcome back to another movie review, AK After I Saw, and this time around I'm going to be talking about the 2021 comedy sequel known as Coming to America. Now, this is the sequel to the 1988 comedy classic that I absolutely love, Coming to America. If you didn't see my review for that, you can check it out on my YouTube channel. As you guys, if you want to know my opinions on that film. But this sequel, this was directed by Craig Brewler, who directed Dolomite Is My Name, which is a Netflix film, and it also starred Eddie Murphy in that. So this is the second collaboration with Eddie Murphy. So in this sequel, we see Prince Akeem, once again played by Eddie Murphy, who he is now married and he has 3 daughters, and he's settling back in where he came from Africa, until he gets told by his father, played by James Earl Jones, once again from the first movie, that he has a long-lost son named Laval. And when Akeem finds out about it, he himself, along with his best friend, Sammy, once again played by Arsenio Hall, basically they travel back to America where they, have to find him. And Akeem is trying to, build a relationship with his son, and hopefully his son can be like him, and hopefully he can learn about where he came, learn about his father's past, as well as learn about the whole history about Akeem's past and family. So that's pretty much the story of Coming to America. So I just finished watching this movie on Amazon Prime today. This came out on Amazon Prime today, and this was supposed to be a theatrical release, but of course with the pandemic, Amazon bought the rights to Paramount and decided to release this on Amazon Prime, and it was a good thing. And it would have been another good experience for me to see an Eddie Murphy movie on the big screen, because I've only seen one of his films on the big screen before, but it was an animated film, and that was Shrek Forever After, the final chapter, which I will do a review of that on my channel. And so it was glad to see Eddie Murphy back, because I hadn't seen him in a while, since Tower Heist or something. I haven't seen 1,000 Words, but I might check it out despite all the negative reviews I received when it came out back in 2012. And I hadn't seen him since then until 2019, when I saw him in Dolomite Is My Name, which I heard a lot of people talking about on Netflix. So I wanted to give that a go, and I'll let you guys know what I think of that film as well. And so when I heard there was going to be a sequel to Coming to America, I was pretty surprised to hear about that. And it was a pretty surprise along the way, a sequel to an iconic movie, because most of the time for any sequels to an iconic classic that's been taken years to make, such as Blade Runner, we had the first film in 1982, and we've had the sequel in 2017, Blade Runner 2049, which I still not have seen, but I gotta see that film since I've heard what people said about that movie. But I had seen a comedy sequel along the way, the comedy sequel by Paramount before, which was Zoolander 2, which I love the first Zoolander. It's one of my favorite comedies from the 2000s, and my favorite Ben Stiller film. And that sequel, I'll do a review on that as well. If you knew what I was doing there, you probably might know what I think of it. But and from seeing the trailers for this film, I was looking forward to the sequel, because it was such a great joy to see Eddie Murphy back on screen. But this sequel, unfortunately, this sequel really wasn't as good as the first film. Is this a terrible sequel? No, it's not a bad sequel. It's not one of the worst comedy sequels I've ever seen, any of the worst comedy sequels I've seen out there. But it still had some laughs. I still had pretty good time watching the sequel. And again, it was a joy to see Eddie Murphy back on the screen. But again, the sequel, this one was just okay. It wasn't as good as the first film. I would just prefer the first movie. But let's talk about what I think about the sequel. The performances in the film, you got Eddie Murphy, of course, as Akeem. He's still great as Akeem, like he was in the first movie, although there were a little bit of essence to other characters that Eddie Murphy, you know, portrayed in the past for some of his other sequels to movies or any of his other comedy films, you know, like the Beverly Hills Cop movies, the Nutty Professor, or anything like that. There was some bit of kind of essence for him, you know, for the way his character's portrayed in this film. It's not like his character in this film was awful in this movie. He was still, you know, fun and likable for the most part, but there was just some formulas from other Eddie Murphy films that tend to be a bit lighthearted, because this one ends up being a bit, you know, lighthearted, family friendly, instead of being, you know, kind of like raunchiness like the first film was, which that's kind of a bit of an issue was. I thought the film was going to be like what the first film was, but unfortunately it ended up being a bit like family friendly, which that was a bit of an issue. And I wasn't like annoyed when I heard about it. I was just thinking like what was it going to be like, but it kind of didn't work for me at all. But for still Eddie Murphy, like I said, he was still great in this movie and still likable and very funny in this movie, and as well as for the other characters he portrayed, like since the first film, because he portrays more than one character, like I said for my review for the first. But geez, it was great to see them back on the screen, like in the barber scene. That's very funny. And he plays like a singer, like he was in the first. He was back in the sequel, and it was great. It was a great joy to see him as well on the screen. And you got Arsenio Hall in this film. He's back from the first movie. He was still really good in the movie, and he was also really funny. And you got James Earl Jones coming back, since last time I saw him for a big screen film was the live action version of The Lion King, which I'll do a review on that too. But it was great. It was a great joy to see him back on the screen, and he was still good in the movie. And as for the other performances, they all did pretty good. And you got some new talents in this film, like Tracy Morgan, from which I've seen him in like silly spoof comedies back then. Like he was in like Cop House, superhero movie, or anything else. He was pretty funny in the movie, and he was a delight to see on screen, because he is a funny man. And the actor who played Lavelle in the film, he did a pretty good job portraying, you know, portraying Akeem's long son in the film. And for him on screen, he was a joy to watch on screen. And as for the other issues, like I said, which the issue I had at first, what I mentioned before, was like being a bit lighthearted and family friendly, and having less F-bombs, and not having, you know, like raunchiness like the first film did, which that was an issue. The other issues I had was just some of its punchlines of like jokes in the film were very familiar, and the story was very familiar as well. But there was no dull humor in the film that I found boring or even just bad. So there were chuckles here and there, but some of them felt a bit flat, and some of it was just very familiar. Like some of its essence from the first film, what they try to do when they try to avoid it being, you know, less raunchy or having, you know, less F-bombs or anything, which you know, the first film did, but this sequel did not do that. That was a bit of an issue with the film that I did have as well, along with like I said, for like some of the punchlines in the film, for its humor and jokes in the film. But nonetheless, Coming to America, it's not an awful sequel. It's not a disappointing film. It was almost a little bit very disappointing for me, but I wasn't very disappointed with it. I was just a little bit disappointed, but it wasn't awful. It was okay for the most part, but it was still a great joy to see, you know, Eddie Murphy back to movies, because again, it's you know, it's been a while since I've seen him, but it was great to see him back, as well as everyone else back from the first movie, and there was still some enjoyment for this out of it, but it was overall just an okay movie. So overall, I'm going to give Coming to America a C. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my review of Coming to America. If you did see the film, again, it's on Amazon Prime. It just came out today. If you did see the film, I would like to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy this, or did you not really care for this one? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all for my another movie, AK After I Saw review, which is going to be tomorrow, which is going to be on Moxie, which just came out on Wednesday. So I'll be doing another AK After I Saw review on Saturday tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And this has been Follins Media Corner signing off.